Okay.
Okay, so now moving on to working memory model. Let's outline the working memory
WMM.
model. Joe, take over.
Okay, I will. So basically, at the center of the working memory model, we have the central executive. And
We do.
given its sort of powerful name, it probably won't surprise you that it controls everything. It directs attention to particular tasks, it prioritizes resources, and it supervises the slave systems, which we'll come to in a moment. So it generally controls everything to do with...
So what are these slave systems, Joe?
I'm glad you asked, Liam.
Please do not die.
I'm glad you asked, Liam. The first is the Vizio Spatial Sketchpad.
And what is this?
Well, it's a limited capacity store for visual information.
Oh, and what is inside the store?
It's made up of the visual cache and the inner scribe.
And what do these do?
Well, the visual cache, Liam, it basically stores what things look like, so images in your mind. For example, giraffe.
Oh, I see a giraffe now.
Exactly. And the inner scribe stores the relationship between visual items, so giraffe on a rock.
Oh, I can see the relationship between the giraffe and the rock that it is upon.
Indeed. So spatial awareness comes into this as well, so you remember what's around you.
Very well explained, Joe.
Thank you.
Did you know, however, that there is also a phonological loop?
I did know that. In fact, I know that it's a limited capacity store for auditory information.
Well, if you know so much, please explain what else is in the phonological loop.
I'm actually already on it.
Oh,
The Articulatory Loop, which is a store which provides the rehearsal of sounds that you hear. It's your inner voice.
right.
And the Phonological Store, which is a store for what you hear. So it's your inner ear.
Great.
In the psychological, not biological sense.
Uh-huh.
Also in there somewhere, linked to the central executive, we have the Episodic Buffer, which is sort of a general store that... It was added later, after this paper was written. And it accounts for things that use both visual and acoustic information.
Thank you very
it's
much.
It's not that important.
No, it's not really. You don't really need to know what it does, just that it exists.
Indeed.
But Joe, can I just say that the multi-store model suggests that short-term memory is only a single store, yet the WMM, the working memory model, suggests that short-term memory has multiple parts and different functions.
That's true, Liam.
It is very true.
It is.
Can I now evaluate your working memory model?
Yes, please do.
Okay, well, because it was it shows a multi-part short-term memory, we must evaluate this.
Okay.
With a study and thing called the dual task method, which is basically where participants were asked to check sentences that were written down, while also reciting 6 digits, so doing a short digit span technique. Yes. The multi-store model says that you shouldn't be able to do these things at the same time, because there's not enough capacity in the short-term memory. However, the working memory model says yes, you can, because you can use the visual spatial sketchpad for your sentences checking and the phonological loop to recite your digits.
So it's that idea that you can direct attention to 2 different tasks so long as they're not using up the same store.
Exactly, and the result of this study found that participants made very few errors. However, their speed was a bit slower when they were doing 2 tasks, and this is because there is limited resources in your working memory model that the central executive must allocate equally.
Indeed. Okay, that's...
How else can we evaluate this, Joe?
Well, there was a case study here.
Really?
KF. Kentucky Fried
Okay.
Digit span technique.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, she, Kentucky Fried, only had a digit span of 2.
So yes, he didn't have much of a short-term memory, did he?
Could transfer...
Apparently.
You could transfer new information into long-term memory.
So yes, he could still transfer information to his long-term memory.
Yeah, but he had selected disruption of short-term memory. Kentucky Fried.
All right, thank you. So this shows that there must be a multi-part STM, otherwise this person shouldn't exist.
Yes.
So let's evaluate the central executive. Is this difficult or easy?
It is difficult to investigate, Liam, because it's
And why is
complex
that?
and it has many functions.
That is right. It was also found that when someone was doing two tasks, their prefrontal cortex was a lot more used. It showed greater activation in there. And this is supported as the central executive should have greater input when two tasks are going on, because it needs to help out the visual spatial sketchpad and the phonological loop when it's overburdened with more than one task.
Great. Okay, moving on to the Visual Spatial Sketchpad. What a lovely segue.
We have a case study.
LH.
It's me.
That's Liam Hopley.
Yeah, thanks for telling everyone my name.
You're welcome.
Anytime. So LH had a road accident, and after that he had some brain issues, but he performed better on spatial tasks than visual tasks, which suggests that there is, in fact, separate visual and spatial systems within the visual spatial sketchpad.
So that is a supporting study.
Yes, it is supporting. And moving on, we have the phonological loop, which we need to evaluate with a word length effect.
Okay, so in this study, it was independent groups design. Condition 1, we had 5 one-syllable words, and in condition 2, we had 5 polysyllabic words.
Meaning more than one syllable.
Indeed. You could explain
It was
the results.
found that there was better recall of the one-syllable words, as it supports the idea that the capacity is determined by the length of time it's taken to say a word.
Indeed.
There's also a case study to support the phonological loop called SC.
Snapchat.
Yeah, maybe.
Snapchat.
Had brain damage too.
Snapchat.
Yes, thank you, Joe.
Snapchat.
SC, or Snapchat apparently, had brain damage, and they were unable to learn word pairs that were presented out loud, i.e. auditorily, if that's a word.
So that meant that only the phonological loop was damaged and the
Yes.
visual spatial sketchpad was fine.
Because they were able to learn the word pairs when they were on paper.
Which
and they could see
further
them.
supports the existence of the phonological loop.
Exactly.
Okay, let's look at some general strengths of the
Okay,
WMM.
well, this WMM was very influential in terms of memory
research.
That is correct. That's what I was going to say. It also explains short-term memory in terms of both storage and processing, because of its different parts underneath its different parts.
It also places less emphasis on rehearsal as the only way to transfer information to the long-term memory.
Does. And accounts for previous findings that the multi-store model could not explain.
For example,
the case studies of LH and KF, where they could, where KF only had digit span of 2, but could still transfer information to his long-term memory, and LH performed better on spatial than visual tasks, so suggesting things in that the multi-store model could not explain. More strengths are also that the working memory model, the WMM, can be applied to real-life settings, for example, jobs where you have to do not just auditory or visual tasks, but both.
wow. Okay, let's look at some weaknesses here.
Let's.
So a weakness would be that the working memory model doesn't give a complete understanding of memory. It's not,
It doesn't.
it doesn't solve every problem.
But then, does any model give a complete, deep understanding?
I don't know. We'll find out in A2, I guess.
Maybe we will.
The distant land of A2.
But don't go there yet. We're still in AS.
Ah, that's a shame.
More weaknesses.
Okay, so little research was put into the central executive and its role still is unclear.
It is, because it's a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't really know where it
It's
is,
a
what
bit
it is.
elusive.
Yeah. But we know it's kind of got to be there to make sense. Other weaknesses are that the model should include some form of long-term memory activation, because at the minute it's just explaining the short-term memory.
That's true, yeah.
Where do the things go after that? Who knows?
Exactly.
And one main weakness, actually, is that it fails to account for musical memory. And this is memory where we can perform well at an auditory task, as well as performing another auditory task, which is listening to instrumental music. Basically because it doesn't have lyrics in, you're not thinking about
the words
and its meaning, its semanticness. So you can do them both at the same time, and that is your working memory model.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Very nice.